May 9, 1945, Kronach, Germany. American commanders faced an impossible problem. A fortified medieval town, 15,000 German troops, stone walls 30 feet thick, and orders to take it without leveling a 1,000-year-old historic landmark. They needed 10,000 soldiers for a frontal assault. Thousands would die. The town would be destroyed. And then a 1-year-old private first class named Leo Major walked into the command tent and said 5 words, "I'll take it alone." The commanders thought he was insane. Leo Major had already lost an eye in combat. He'd been sent home twice for injuries. He'd refused both times. He'd single-handedly captured 93 German soldiers 2 months earlier. And now he was volunteering to capture an entire fortified town by himself, armed with a machine gun, grenades, and a strategy so insane it just might work. This is the story of how one man with one eye terrorized an entire German garrison into surrender, captured a medieval town without firing a shot at civilians, and became the most decorated Canadian soldier you've never heard of. But to understand how Leo Major did this, you need to understand who he was and where he came from. Leo Major was born on January 23, 1921, in New Bedford, Massachusetts, to French-Canadian parents. His family was poor, very poor, 8 children. His father worked in textile mills. When Leo was young, the family moved back to Montreal, Quebec, searching for better opportunities. They didn't find them. Leo grew up in the poorest neighborhoods of Montreal during the Great Depression. No money, no prospects, no future. At age 14, he dropped out of school to work, loading trucks, hauling freight, manual labor, anything to help his family survive. But Leo Major had something most people didn't have: rage. Controlled, focused rage. His father had abandoned the family. Leo never forgave him. And he channeled that anger into becoming physically strong. He lifted weights, he boxed, he fought in the streets. By age 19, Leo Major was 5 feet 8 inches tall, 170 pounds of muscle, and absolutely fearless. When World War II began in 1939, Leo saw an opportunity. September 1940, age 19. He enlisted in the Canadian Army. He volunteered for the Regiment de la Chaudière, a French-Canadian unit. The recruiters looked at this short, angry kid from Montreal and saw cannon fodder. They were wrong. Leo Major completed basic training in 1941. He was assigned to reconnaissance, the job nobody wanted. Reconnaissance soldiers went ahead of the main force, behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence. Most didn't come back. Leo Major loved it. June 6, 1944, D-Day, the Allied invasion of Normandy. Leo Major landed on Juno Beach with the Regiment de la Chaudière. He was 23 years old. He'd never seen combat. Within hours, that would change. During the advance inland, Leo's unit encountered heavy German resistance, machine gun nests, snipers, artillery. Men were dying everywhere. And Leo Major walked through it like he was taking a stroll. He moved forward alone, scouted German positions, returned with exact coordinates. The artillery obliterated the targets. He did it again, and again, and again. His commanding officers realized something. This kid from Montreal had zero fear. July 1944, Normandy countryside. Leo Major was on a solo reconnaissance mission when he encountered a German armored vehicle. 4 soldiers inside. They saw him, raised their weapons. Leo didn't run. He pulled out a grenade, threw it through the open hatch. The vehicle exploded. 3 Germans died instantly. The 4th survived. Leo captured him, dragged him back to Canadian lines for interrogation, single-handedly. The commanders were impressed, but Leo Major was just getting started. July 8, 1944, near the town of Caen. Leo Major was scouting enemy positions in a forest when he walked into a German patrol. 4 soldiers. They opened fire. Leo fired back. Killed 2. The 3rd soldier threw a phosphorus grenade. It exploded near Leo's face. Phosphorus burned at 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The chemical lodged in Leo's left eye, burning, smoking, destroying the tissue. Leo felt his eye melt. Any normal person would have screamed, collapsed. waited for medics. Leo Major grabbed his rifle, shot the German soldier who threw the grenade, captured the fourth soldier, and walked back to Canadian lines with his eye literally burning out of his skull. The medics evacuated him to a field hospital in England. The doctors examined his eye, completely destroyed, irreparable damage. They told Leo he would be sent home to Canada. Medical discharge. His war was over. Leo Major refused. He told the doctors he only needed one eye to shoot. He told them he wasn't going home until Germany surrendered. He told them if they tried to discharge him, he would go absent without leave and return to his unit anyway. The doctors didn't know what to do with him. Eventually, they gave up. They fitted him with an eye patch, sent him back to his regiment, and Leo Major returned to combat with one eye, a machine gun, and absolutely no fear. September 1944. The Netherlands. Canadian forces were liberating Dutch cities from German occupation. The Dutch had suffered under Nazi rule since 1940. 4 years of starvation, executions, deportations. They were desperate for liberation. Leo Major's regiment advanced through the Netherlands, and everywhere they went, Leo scouted ahead, alone, with one eye. Mapping German positions. Sometimes he would slip into occupied towns at night, move through streets controlled by German soldiers, gather intelligence, return before dawn. The Germans started hearing stories about a one-eyed Canadian demon who appeared out of nowhere. They thought it was Allied propaganda. It wasn't. February 1945. The town of Dieren, Netherlands. Leo Major was on reconnaissance when he encountered a German SS patrol, 8 soldiers, elite troops. They surrounded him, demanded surrender. Leo Major opened fire. Killed 4 Germans in seconds. The other 4 ran. Leo chased them, captured all 4, brought them back as prisoners, single-handedly captured 8 SS soldiers. His commanders stopped being surprised. But Leo's most famous action in the Netherlands happened in April 1945. The small city of ZWOLLE. 50,000 Dutch civilians trapped inside. German garrison of unknown size. Canadian commanders needed intelligence. How many Germans? Where were they positioned? Could the city be liberated without destroying it? They asked for volunteers for a reconnaissance mission into ZWOLLE. 2 men volunteered, Leo Major and his best friend, Corporal Willie Arsenault. April 13th, 1945. Night. Leo and Willie entered ZWOLLE under cover of darkness. They moved through the streets silently, mapping German positions, counting soldiers. Everything was going according to plan. And then they walked into a German patrol. The Germans opened fire. Willie Arsenault was killed instantly. Leo Major watched his best friend die. And something inside him broke. Not fear, not sadness, pure rage. Leo grabbed Willie's body, dragged it to cover. And then he started killing Germans. He killed the patrol that shot Willie. 4 soldiers. Then he moved through the city, alone, hunting. Leo Major spent the next 8 hours terrorizing the entire German garrison. He ran through the streets firing his machine gun. He threw grenades into German positions. He set buildings on fire. He created the sound of an entire battalion attacking. The Germans thought the main Canadian force had arrived. They thought they were surrounded. They thought thousands of Allied soldiers were storming the city. It was one man, one eye, one machine gun, unlimited rage. Leo moved from position to position. He would fire from one street, run to another street, fire again, create crossfire. Make the Germans think they were being attacked from multiple directions. He captured a German staff car, drove through the city honking the horn, yelling in French, creating chaos. The German officers panicked. They started evacuating, retreating. Leo captured 93 German soldiers that night. He personally marched them out of ZWOLLE at gunpoint. And as dawn broke on April 14, 1945, the Dutch civilians emerged from their homes and discovered their city was liberated by one man. The Canadian commanders couldn't believe it. They had planned a full-scale assault, artillery bombardment, infantry advance, hundreds of casualties expected. Leo Major had taken the city alone. The Dutch civilians celebrated. They named a street after Leo Major. They invited him to liberation ceremonies, but Leo refused to attend because Willie Arsenault was dead, and Leo blamed himself. The Canadian Army wanted to award Leo the Distinguished Conduct Medal for capturing ZWOLLE. Leo refused the medal. He said the British General Montgomery was incompetent. He said he didn't want a medal from Montgomery. He said Willie Arsenault deserved the recognition, not him. The army was shocked. Soldiers don't refuse medals. But Leo Major wasn't a normal soldier. May 1945, Germany. The war was almost over. Hitler was dead. Berlin had fallen. But isolated German units still fought. One of the last German strongholds was the town of Kronach in Bavaria, a medieval fortress town. Stone walls 30 feet thick, 15,000 German troops inside. Fanatical defenders who refused to surrender. The American commanders had a problem. They could bombard the town with artillery and destroy a 1,000-year-old historic landmark. Or they could assault it directly and lose thousands of soldiers. Neither option was acceptable. And that's when Leo Major, now attached to American forces as a liaison, walked into the command tent. The American officers explained the situation. 15,000 Germans. Fortified position. Impossible to take without massive casualties. Leo Major studied the map. He looked at the walls, the gates, the layout, and then he said, "I'll take it alone." The Americans thought he was joking. He wasn't. May 9th, 1945, night. Leo Major approached Kronach alone. He wore a dark uniform, carried a machine gun, grenades, and a white flag. Wait, a white flag? Yes. Because Leo Major wasn't going to capture this town by killing everyone. He was going to capture it by making them think they were already defeated. Leo entered Kronach through a drainage tunnel. He emerged inside the walls. And then he started his performance. He fired his machine gun at German positions. The Germans fired back. Leo ran to a different location, fired again. Created the illusion of multiple attackers. He threw grenades at barracks, set ammunition dumps on fire, created explosions throughout the town. The German soldiers panicked. They thought the Americans were inside the walls. They thought the town had been breached. And then Leo Major did something insane. He found the German garrison headquarters, walked up to the front door, and knocked. A German officer opened the door, saw a one-eyed soldier standing there with a white flag and a machine gun. Leo spoke in broken German. He told the officer the Americans had surrounded the town. He told him thousands of Allied soldiers were outside the walls. He told him resistance was pointless. He told him surrender now and the civilians would be spared. The German officer stared at him. This scarred, one-eyed soldier, covered in soot and blood, standing at his door with a white flag in one hand and a smoking machine gun in the other, and the officer believed him. The German garrison commander agreed to negotiate. Leo Major led him through the town, showed him the fires, the destroyed positions, the chaos, made it look like a battalion had attacked. The commander saw his men panicking, saw the flames, heard the explosions, and he made the decision. He ordered his troops to surrender. 15,000 German soldiers laid down their weapons. Because they thought they were surrounded. They weren't. It was one man, one eye, and the most audacious bluff in military history. When American forces entered Kronach the next morning, they found the German garrison surrendering, the town intact, the civilians unharmed, the walls undamaged. The commanders couldn't believe it. Leo Major had done it again, captured an entire fortified town by himself. The Americans wanted to give him the Medal of Honor. Leo refused. He said he was Canadian, not American. He said he didn't need American medals. He said he just wanted to go home. May 8th, 1945, VE Day, victory in Europe. The war was over. Leo Major returned to Canada. The Canadian government awarded him the Distinguished Conduct Medal for his actions in the Netherlands. He accepted this time, but he never talked about the war. He married a woman named Pauline. They moved to Montreal. Leo worked as a pipe fitter, raised 3 children, lived quietly. For decades, nobody knew who he was. Nobody knew what he had done. He kept his medals in a drawer, never displayed them, never talked about them. His children didn't know their father was a war hero until they were adults. But in 1951, Leo Major's story wasn't over, because there was another war. Korea. June 25, 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea. The United Nations called for military assistance. Canada sent troops. Leo Major was 29 years old, married, 3 children, working a steady job, and he volunteered. Pauline begged him not to go. The children didn't understand, but Leo said the same thing he'd said in 1940. Someone has to go. November 1951, Korea. Leo Major was now a sergeant in the Royal 22nd Regiment, the famous Vandues. The Korean War was brutal. Frozen mountains, Chinese human wave attacks, trench warfare. Leo was assigned to reconnaissance again. His commanders remembered what he could do. And Leo Major, now 30 years old with one eye, went back to work. November 23, 1951, Hill 355. The Vandues held a strategic position on a frozen Korean hilltop. Intelligence reported a massive Chinese attack was coming. 14,000 Chinese soldiers against 250 Canadians. The orders were simple: hold the hill as long as possible, then retreat. Survival wasn't expected. The Chinese attacked at 0200 hours, wave after wave, thousands of soldiers, bugles blaring, screaming. Human wave tactics designed to overwhelm defenders through sheer numbers. The Canadians fired everything they had: machine guns, mortars, artillery support. But the Chinese kept coming. By 0400 hours, the Canadian position was being overrun. Soldiers were dying. Ammunition was running low. The order came to retreat. Everyone pulled back, except Leo Major. Leo stayed at his position, a machine gun nest on the forward slope. He told his men to retreat. He would cover them. They argued. He ordered. They retreated. And Leo Major stayed alone on Hill 355 with a machine gun and watched 14,000 Chinese soldiers advance toward him. For the next 3 hours, Leo Major held that position. Alone. He fired burst after burst. Chinese soldiers fell by the dozens. They tried to flank him. He threw grenades. They tried to rush his position. He mowed them down. His barrel overheated. He changed barrels. His ammunition ran low. He called for resupply drops. They couldn't reach him. So he scavenged ammunition from dead Chinese soldiers. He fought with captured weapons. He fought with grenades. He fought with anything he could find. The Chinese couldn't understand how one position was holding. They thought it was a reinforced bunker with multiple machine guns. It was one man, one eye, and absolutely no intention of retreating. At 0700 hours, dawn broke. The Chinese could finally see Hill 355 clearly. They saw the Canadian position was abandoned, except for one machine gun nest, still firing, still holding. They concentrated their attack on that single position. Leo Major fought until 1100 hours, 5 hours, alone, against 14,000 Chinese soldiers. And then Canadian artillery arrived. They obliterated the Chinese advance. The attack broke. The Chinese retreated. And Leo Major stood up from his position, walked back to Canadian lines. Covered in soot, deaf from the machine gun fire, but alive. The Canadian commanders were speechless. Casualty reports came in. Estimated 600 to 800 Chinese soldiers killed or wounded in Leo Major's sector by one man, holding one position for 5 hours. The Canadian Army recommended Leo for the Victoria Cross, the highest military honor. Leo refused. Again, he said he was just doing his job. He said other men fought just as hard. He said he didn't need medals to know what he'd done. The Army compromised. They awarded him a second Distinguished Conduct Medal, making Leo Major one of only 3 Canadians to ever receive the DCM twice. He accepted, but he never wore it. Leo Major returned to Canada in 1953. The Korean War ended. Leo went back to his family, back to his job as a pipe fitter, back to his quiet life in Montreal. He worked for 30 years. Raised his children. Never talked about the war. His neighbors had no idea. His coworkers had no idea. The guy who fixed pipes in their buildings had captured a fortified town by himself. had held off 14,000 Chinese soldiers alone, had lost an eye, and kept fighting. But Leo didn't care if people knew. He knew. That was enough. In 2000, the Canadian government finally recognized Leo Major's service. They invited him to official ceremonies. They asked him to speak to veterans groups. He agreed. But he still downplayed everything. When reporters asked how he captured ZWOLLE alone, he said, "I got angry." When they asked how he held Hill 355 for 5 hours, he said, "I didn't want to retreat." When they asked if he was afraid, he said, "Fear is useless. Either you do the job or you don't." October 12, 2008. Leo Major died at age 87. He was buried in Montreal with full military honors, 2 Distinguished Conduct Medals, the only Canadian to receive the DCM twice. But most Canadians had never heard of him. Most history books didn't mention him, because Leo Major never wanted attention. He wanted to do his job, go home, live quietly, and that's exactly what he did. But Leo Major's legacy lives on. In ZWOLLE, Netherlands, there's a street named Leo Majolaan. Every year on April 14th, the Dutch hold a ceremony honoring the one-eyed Canadian who liberated their city. In Kronach, Germany, historians still debate whether the story is true. How could one man capture 15,000 soldiers? But American military records confirm it. It happened. In Korea, Hill 355 is still remembered as one of the greatest defensive stands in Canadian military history. And in Montreal, a monument honors Leo Major and the Regiment de la Chaudière. But the best memorial isn't a statue or a street name. It's the story itself. The story of a kid from the slums of Montreal who became the most dangerous soldier the Germans and Chinese ever faced. Who lost an eye and kept fighting. Who captured 93 German soldiers. Who liberated an entire city alone. Who captured a fortified town by himself. Who held off 14,000 Chinese soldiers for 5 hours. And who came home, put his medals in a drawer, and went back to work. Because that's who Leo Major was. Not a man who wanted glory. Not a man who wanted recognition. Just a man who saw a job that needed to be done and did it, no matter how impossible. No matter how dangerous. No matter the cost. His father abandoned his family. Leo spent his entire life proving he was nothing like his father. His commanders told him he couldn't fight with one eye. Leo became the most decorated Canadian soldier in history. The Germans thought they were safe behind medieval walls. Leo walked in and made them surrender. The Chinese thought 14,000 soldiers could overrun 250 Canadians. Leo Major held the line alone. "Fear is useless," he said. "Either you do the job or you don't." And Leo Major always did the job. If you found this story important, if you believe soldiers like Leo Major deserve to be remembered, please like this video. It helps YouTube's algorithm show these stories to more people. Subscribe to the channel for more forgotten war stories. And in the comments below, tell us, where are you watching from?